So yeah, I wasn't really taught about sex, except at school, and my school had abstinence only sex education called Virtuous Reality.
No.
This is so true. It was called Virtuous Reality. It was taught in
I didn't mean to this from like what
yeah, okay. Again,
that.
none of it seems that weird at the time. This was also in like 2005, 2004, like
Yeah, that
when
sounds
people
right.
were really first starting
Matrix
to
Revolutions
Yeah.
came out the year before. They're like, fuck
yes,
yeah.
yes, absolutely. Like, and of course it was perfectly timed for when I was like really starting to explore the internet.
Yeah.
So it really hit home. My name is Brittany, or B. I'm 32. I'm non-binary, queer, bisexual, whatever. I'm a social worker. I live in Kansas City. I have a freckle between two of my toes. I have a pet dachshund. He's delightful.
Mm-hmm.
I like hiking and being outside. I can make this face. Oh, it's pretty unusual.
I like that.
Yeah. Those are probably the most interesting things.
That's great. Yeah, I don't. That's funny. I didn't know your name. Like your birth name's Brittany. Like I didn't know that until just like an hour ago.
I didn't know either. Yeah.
You're just B to me. That's funny.
Well, I super prefer that. So
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, that's
But
perfect.
I mean, that's all that was on your profile. And,
Yeah.
And you never told us till
just now.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
I thought about that the other day, and I was like, I'm gonna keep that going.
Yeah.
Let's nurture that. I'm
Perfect.
into it.
Yeah.
I remember going to church from a really young age, like I think probably at least since 4 or 5 years old. When I was really little, we went to like a Baptist church or something, and then maybe around kindergarten or so, we started going to a non-denominational kind of evangelical church, and I went to church there, or at least youth group or whatever. I was doing something there at least once a week until probably like age 16.
So you fell away from your faith around 16.
Oh no.
No, tell me about that. What was that journey like of leaving church?
Of leaving church or falling away from my faith?
Both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I probably started questioning whether I believed in God maybe around like age 14. I had kind of started to think about the idea that like bad people could, be forgiven and like theoretically go to heaven. And that was pretty upsetting to me. And the whole thing, part of me had always thought, like, maybe this is all made up. I don't know. But then, it was so much of my culture. I grew up in such a small town that, like, hi, I'm Brittany. Like, where do you go to church? Like, that's what people talk about. So, and that's your community.
Yeah.
So I was never really, like, open to entertaining that idea. But, like, as I became a teenager, I became more interested in like science and psychology and stuff like that, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about any of this. But I think that I just kind of molded over and just let it sit for a long time. And then around age 16, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I think I haven't been into this for a while. And then I stopped going to youth group, which I was like kind of in training to be like one of the youth leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really uncomfortable. And I just like stopped going, which
Yeah.
was the whole thing. My church was non-denominational, which was always very vague, but it was kind of like, you can't just like pick certain parts of the Bible. Like we follow the New Testament, and we basically follow everything in the New Testament to the T. Was kind of what I picked up, was the main idea later. But it was very like evangelical, really into like proselytizing. Like we all as Christians have this moral obligation to bring other people into the faith and to like share the word of Jesus, because everybody who dies without accepting Jesus is going to hell, and we can't let that happen.
Yeah.
We have to share what we know. Like they just don't know, and we have to help them. And that was like so important. So that really makes one very passionate about saving the lost souls. And I was really, really into it. But then as I got older and I was like, yeah, this is like what Christians are like. And then I would like be in school and I'd be like, yeah, such and so was praying in tongues or whatever. And people were like, what? And then like I would maybe want to have a friend go to church with me or something, and their parents were like, oh, that one's a cult. And I was like, no, it's normal. It's just like all the other Christian churches. Like you go to a Christian church, like it's the same. And it wasn't the same. And, you go to church camp and people are like, passing out and stuff. And, like random friends that other people would bring were like, this is scary. And it was just, that was the church that I grew up in. And so I didn't know any different. And it didn't occur to me that it would be strange that somebody would like, I don't know, bark like a dog in the middle of church or whatever. Like it just happened. We had faith healings and all kinds of stuff, and that was just part of it. People had demons in them, and like demons had to be cast out, and like it was just normal. It was all normal. And then as I realized like, oh, this isn't normal for most people, and it's actually like maybe I don't believe in it. So it just kind of like all cascaded down. As far as my church leadership, I think the people who were like figureheads of the church, the ones that I knew, I don't want to say intimately because it wasn't anything weird, but the ones that I was most familiar with, like they were good people.
Okay.
And I think that was a lot of what was confusing about leaving the church, and like losing my faith, was like a lot of these people are really good people and they have really good hearts. And like I don't think that they're out to harm anyone. But I think the doctrine itself is what's harmful. I think in my church there were some other dynamics where there were status families in my church, and they didn't have necessarily leadership roles or anything like that. But at least from my perspective, or maybe just my family, those people were almost the culty, like the ones that were like, those ones, there they are.
Okay.
And that was like a really big deal. Like the people of reference of like,
interesting.
Those.
Yeah.
A lot of what not a lot, but at least some of what I've pursued academically and like in my career is, is the connection between the mind and the body.
Yeah.
Right? Our minds are so powerful, and there's so much behind the power of what you believe and how it affects your physical self. And like not in like a good energy and stuff, which I'm here for that, but in a very real, like when you have chronic stress, you develop chronic illnesses, you're more likely to have migraines and stuff like that. And I think in that same way, like the people who I saw, faint in church, like that was real fainting, I think, for the most part. I definitely did see some, like there was a lot of, you kind of tip the balance for folks and stuff like that. But I think for the most part, the things that people felt were real.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was the power of their minds and not the power of any like higher being.
Did you ever feel anything that you were like, this was real, and now you're not sure?
Oh, I felt it was real. Like part of me was like maybe not, but the main part of me was really into it, and like I was speaking in tongues and stuff like that, and I believed it was real.
Yeah.
I really felt like, oh yep, the Spirit of the Lord came down on me like a tongue of fire. And
Yeah.
this sounds real old timey, but this was in the 2000s. Like you'd have like a revival, you know, and like an out of town pastor would come, and you know he's mostly doing the faith healings, like not necessarily the people from our church. Maybe they did sometimes, but usually not. And so when they would come in, then there would be, you know, lots of praying in tongues and things like that. Or if there were like special events or, you know, church camp, stuff like that. Like that was always the last night of church camp. Like everyone's getting like anointed with oil it's and like
bringing out the fine china for the
yeah.
finale.
Yeah, all the big guns are pulled out, and that's like when the real stuff happens, you know. But there's also like genuine emotional release.
Yeah,
you know, people are crying and they can't stop crying, and they're like, I'm overcome by the beauty of the Lord. But realistically, they probably just haven't let themselves have a good cry in a long time, and that's real cathartic.
Yeah. What do you like to do for fun?
I mostly like to be outside when I can. I like physical activity in general. It's good for my mental health, maybe reinforcing, you know. I like to take my dog on walks. I like to go hiking. I like to explore new places. Go out in a kayak. Roller skater. I might bike some. Both of those real poorly. I play board games. I watch TV like everybody else. Do puzzles sometimes. I like my journal.
Tell me about your family and what growing up with them was like. Let's see. Well, I guess chronologically, I lived with my grandparents. My mom and I lived with her parents from like the time that I was born until I was 4, and then my mom got married, and we lived with my stepdad. My dad, he adopted me, and his son, my stepbrother, my brother, you know, I was raised by them, grew up with that arrangement for the most part, and then I went to college and I didn't live with them anymore. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah.
That's the right question. Do they feel supportive of who I am now?
Yeah, what you're up to in the world.
Oh boy, I don't know. You know, I wonder sometimes, like, we don't talk about a lot of it, and so I'm not real clear. Like, there have been things in my life as an adult, even over the last couple of years, where I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure my family is aware of this, and so let's, like, be more open about it. And then it's come to my attention that they didn't know before, and now everyone's shocked. But as far as religion, I've been pretty clear with my parents, at least, since my sophomore year of college, 2009. I think probably 2009. I moved in with some people that I didn't really know, just as roommates for practical reasons, because they lived close to the school. And I was talking about how they like hosted a Bible study, and one of my parents was like, oh, maybe they'll help you, you know, find your way back. And I was just kind of like, you know, that's never going to happen for me. And I think we would all just feel better if you just let that go. And like, I don't think bad things about you. Like, I respect you and like your views. And I don't think you're like dumb or anything, because I think that was always something that my family like thought, that non-Christians thought that Christians were dumb. I don't know. Or maybe I just felt like I needed to say that out loud to them. I don't know. But I said that and I meant it. Like, I think they have their reasons for believing what they do.
But I was really direct with them of like, this isn't gonna change. And they were really upset. They did not like that. They weren't mad, but they cried, and it was pretty clear to me for quite a while. I'm like, I don't know, maybe still that they're just like palpably heartbroken about, you know, my eternal damnation and stuff.
Right.
So that's so real for them, and that's what makes it especially hard, because like when that's your belief system, of course you're worried about your loved ones, but that's not my belief system, and so I feel sad that they're wasting that energy.
I know.
But I can't do anything about that.
No.
We're talking
Just
about
wait.
hell.
Just wait.
Okay.
When was the last time that you were like afraid that you might go to hell?
Oh boy. You know, probably part of me might be still.
Mm-hmm.
Like as with all of this stuff, like the logical part of my brain is like, no, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And then the part of me that loves to feel shame and was taught to feel shame is like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You're going for sure. I was really into, what is that thing? Pascal's Bargain for a while. This concept that it makes sense to believe in God in order to avoid going to hell, like just in case. Like we don't know if God is real or not, and so it benefits you much more to just believe in God. So that in case it's real and he's real and hell is real, you can avoid going to hell. And so you just kind of like play the game, you know, for the prize.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was so interested in that idea for a while when I learned about that concept of like, oh, I think that might be why a lot of people believe in God, because they don't want to go to hell. Like, are they really thinking about what they believe? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what people are thinking or not.
Tough to say, but
Yeah.
But like, yeah, does it ever go away? Does it? You know, like
Does it?
I don't know. Like,
Well,
I want some, but hopefully for someone.
as what do I want to say? This is anybody can watch this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I have been talking with my therapist about what things I want to target in therapy, right? What are some things that I want to work on next?
Sure.
And I sat down and I made a list 2 nights ago, and there's a whole bubble. I made this kind of like word mapping of, you know, clusters of ideas and experiences related to those ideas. And there's a whole bubble of like religious trauma and just all the different things that bop off from that. And I'm hopeful and optimistic because I don't believe that stuff here, but some of it's still in there. And so I'm optimistic that will be helpful in getting all my parts to line up. Get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, but it is crazy how deep those barbs get, you know?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you have how much of your life that you believe this thing and you like buy into this value system wholeheartedly, and I got so much good from religion. And like it really was like a part of people's identity, you know. I was certainly somebody that was like that when I was younger, and so to just kind of have that disintegrate with time, you know, certain parts of that fall off a lot easier than others, but I think a lot, whether it's intentional or not, who knows, and circumstances vary. A lot of what comes from religion as a byproduct, at least, is shame. And I think a lot of religion is using shame to control people or to try to use shame as like a disciplinary tool to help you learn. But research shows, like this has been a big area of research lately in psychology and sociology. And we know that that's really not a healthy way to do things because shame is so deep-seated
and like you can work your ass off in like personal growth to try to let go of shame, but it's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the institution of the church, I mean, we could just talk about patriarchy and how Christianity can so easily completely prop up patriarchy. That happened in my church. It was a very clear, like, wives obey your husbands, men are the head of the household. That was just, of course, duh.
Mm-hmm.
And like, even I as a kid was like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't like this and I don't want to be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like so upsetting to people. Like, they just did not think that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very easy for Christianity to just really make it seem like patriarchy is the way. It's very heteronormative. My church, at least, well, to be fair, most of my town was very white. You know, there were a couple of families, like my church was like the cool church where like you could wear jeans, and like there were some people who had like weird piercings and stuff. And that was like, wow, you know, like everybody had like a fish tattoo, and I was like, oh, so edgy. But I think, yeah, cool Christians are the future. I think, the impact of Christianity, so many bad things, just so many bad things.
Yeah. We're so going back to like gender roles and Christianity and patriarchy, like how did growing up in the church like impact you in your own experience of like gender and like queerness, etc.?
Queerness, oh yeah. Yeah, I was always, well, I was never on board with gender as an idea, I think. It's weird because one of my earliest memories of struggling with that was at church, being in like the kids' church, you know, but I was like really, really little, and I remember somebody, like one of the teachers was like giving the girls pink crayons and giving the boys blue crayons, and it was like a very obvious like gender demarcation. I was like, no, I don't want a pink crayon. And like I don't even remember who the person was, but like they were so like, no, this is your thing, take your thing. And I'm like, no, this isn't my thing, I don't want this thing. I was also like quite sure as a child that I was a boy, you know. I remember like learning about like the differences between boys and girls, you know, it has body parts and stuff, but what I saw was the roles. Like, what do boys get to do and what do girls get to do? What's expected of boys and what's expected of girls? What kind of toys are the boys getting and what kind of toys was I getting? You know, what kind of shit did my brother get to do that I didn't get to do? I want to be on the other team. You know, this team sucks. Who would pick this? Why is anybody okay with this? You know? Like, that just seems so dumb to me and so arbitrary.
Yeah.
Like, what did I do to get put on this shitty team? This doesn't make sense. And of course, like, I told my mom, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm a boy. She's like, no, you're not. And like, of course, like, she tried not to freak out, I think, but she did not like that idea. And it was like, God made girls this way, and God made boys this way, and God made you with girl parts, which is like cisnormative, so cisnormative. Of course, the church, again, very cisnormative, all that shit. And so that was just like a very clear, like, God doesn't make mistakes, you know? It's like, well, this doesn't really make sense to me, but like, what, you don't have any control when you're a kid, you know? You buy the clothes that your mom buys you, and or wear the clothes that your mom buys you, and like, my grandma still talks to me about like, I remember one day when you were little and you said, I have my own style, I don't want to wear a dress, and we just thought you were so fashion forward. I don't know if that's what it was. There are churches that are more affirming, and I, like,
I would rather a church be affirming than be like, we should stone gays.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want people throwing rocks at me or something.
Yeah.
So if the church is gonna exist and it's gonna, I would rather them not be dicks about it.
Yeah.
But I think the Bible says all kinds of shit. Like, you can beat your wife, you can beat your slave, like, just don't kill them. You know, don't eat shellfish, don't eat mixed fibers. Like, there's just a lot going on there. Some guy wrote a book, like, The Year of Living Biblically, and it was like, he followed the Bible to the letter, and it's like, nobody's doing this. I think best case scenario, it's like a book of, like, nice, like, fables around, like, don't be dicks to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, really beyond that, I think it's mostly what people pick and choose. I guess some people are, like, what the red letter Christians of, like, we just follow Jesus, and, like, what did Jesus say? Did he talk about gays? No. Okay, then who cares? Like, he was hanging out with sex workers. Like,
Sure.
he'd probably be chill.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
Yeah, so Jesus said cool shit. Like, what do you think about Jesus, like, as a religious figure or a thinker or a prophet?
Prophet. Oh, I don't think I believe in any type of prophet or anything like that. Like, I don't think he was the son of God. I really don't think that his mom ever got laid like that. No. None of that makes any sense. I mean, I was always taught in church that it's historically documented that Jesus was a dude. And I haven't even cared enough to look into whether that's true or not. I think it's probably true. Like, again, like, the power of the mind, I think, is as real as anything else. And I think if I believe that a deity is giving me strength, I'm going to feel stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that. And I think that people who believe that benefit from that, which is also what makes this whole thing so sticky. You know, I personally don't believe in God. I don't believe in any higher power. I believe in the power of human connection. I believe in the healing power of nature. I would say that's probably the biggest thing for me. I don't know. I don't believe in, like, manifesting, but I do believe that what we put, and this isn't just a belief, like, this is based in science, that what we put intention and energy into, we usually get more of. We shine that light of focus on something, and that part of our life is enhanced because we're giving it attention.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're putting thought into it. I think that's why prayer works.
Mm-hmm.
I think the power of optimism can't be understated.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Never be the same. I'm walking without you. It's never been this way. I'm walking without you.